Hey guys, today we got a pair of chambers by TMAS98, but these are a little bit different than your typical chambers because they take place in both the past, where everything is nice and clean and pristine in Aperture, and the future where things are a little bit dilapidated and easier to move around because there's not as much that's active or working in the future. This is a pretty cool concept and it adds a lot, I think, a lot of complexity to the puzzles, while still being a very easy idea to wrap your head around, the fact that the past influences the future. The first challenge is navigating with this text scrolling in front of your face, but once you get past that, it opens up into a very simple, clean chamber. Two buttons, you press both buttons, it'll open up the door. Seems pretty straightforward, except there's a catch. One of the buttons is stuck behind the glass pane, so it looks like the test chamber is totally unsolvable. And in the current state it is, but we've got this giant time portal here. And you just press this button to turn it on. And by the way, I like the fact that you have to press the button, so it's like you're responsible and witnessing the change in your environment. And it opens up into the future. This is an effect achieved through what are known as area portals, which you can kind of think of as portals embedded into the map itself to make two non-continuous spaces look continuous. And over here you'll notice the glass is cracked, allowing us to portal into here, press the button, and get back out, and there we go. The button that we had no way of getting to is pressed, and we're closer to solving the chamber. Turns out we can't press this other button when we're in the future, though, because this piece of debris has come down. At some point between the past and the future, it's become blocked, but thanks to the law of causality, if you press the button in the past, it will remain pressed in the future, which allows you to solve the puzzle. And that's it for the first chamber. It's a pretty small chamber, but it does force you to interact with both the past and the future, which means that the concept now is pretty much, stuck in your head. You're ready for something a little bit more complicated, like 8 turrets and no way to get past them. You cannot portal to the other side. I don't know if you can see, but there is a grate over there, so if you set up a portal, you couldn't walk through it. So it looks like there's no way to get past except by going to the past. I mean, come on, obviously that one was coming up. So it turns out there was a light bridge that was working perfectly in the past we can use to block the turrets and get across to the other side safely. Bonus points, by the way, for having that nice little visual indicator there of where to place the portal so it's right up against where the turrets are. Now, in order to get safely back to the future, we're going to need to take these turrets out, and in order to get around the problem of tracking their positions in the future, the map just has them explode, which I'm a fan of. Anything that involves explosions is cool with me. So we've got one last turret here. I'm just going to go ahead and take it out of here, put it in the corner where it can't do any harm. As it turns out, it will just disappear in the future, as you'll see in a moment. Over here we've got what looks like a cube dropper, and presumably a cube up there someplace, but there's an emancipation grill blocking us from getting up there, so it's a pretty safe bet that in the far future, maybe the emancipation grill wasn't working. But before we get back there, we gotta take down these turrets, because remember, in the future, there's no light bridge to prevent them from shooting at us, so if we take them down here, they won't be bothering us in the future. Once it's taken care of, we can safely return back to the future and finish this puzzle up. You'll notice it's already taken us back to the past, and we're going back to the future. It keeps swapping in between versions of the chamber, which is great because it forces you to interact with both versions pretty often. Over here, you'll notice that the emancipation grill is in fact dead, and the turret that we left here hundreds of years ago has been replaced by this mound of dirt. I guess it just got one taste of freedom and left Aperture forever or something. But anyway, we can just take the cube to the end of the puzzle, and the puzzle is pretty much solved. But before we go, I do want to show you one little quirk that I noticed about area portals. Listen to this can of beans when I send it through the grill. It starts off really loud, but then gets really quiet, like the moment it crosses over the threshold. As best as I can tell, that's because objects and players like ourselves can go through area portals and have it act like continuous space, but it doesn't work with sound. So when it crosses over that threshold, it gets really quiet because the sound's actually being emitted from a totally separate part of the map. Over here we've got a little bit of a cliffhanger sort of ending of this test chamber, and that's the end of it. It thanks us for playing. Thank you very much, TMAS98, for making some really unique puzzles, I think. And that's it. That's the end of it. It is a pretty short map. It is obviously just meant to give us a concept of what a time portal would do in Portal. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that I don't see more maps doing it, because Portal 2 already gives you that sort of visually distinct style between the old Aperture, like Portal 1 era Aperture, where everything's clean, and the beginning of Portal 2, where everything's kind of decaying and all that sort of stuff. Plus, it gives you the concept of area portals. Like, area portals were actually invented during the development of Portal 2 to deal with having to reconfigure test chambers very often. So it's kind of unique to Portal 2, but between those two things, the visually distinct styles and the area portals, again, I'm kind of surprised that we don't see a whole lot of this, or at least not a whole lot of it done well. So I'd really like to see more of it. Again, I think it's a really simple concept to understand, but it adds like this whole new layer of gameplay. Obviously, if you want to check it out, the map link is in the description. I highly do recommend just checking it out, playing around with it, seeing what is retained from past to future and what's not. Plus, it's a lot of fun to play. As always, if you've got another map that you want to see a video of, just leave that as a comment. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.